Welcome to our Power BI 101 training course. My name's Ross Waterston, consultant at Geordie Consulting and probably the face of Geordie Intelligence, although I try to keep myself behind the camera, never really worked out that way. What I wanted to do today was let's start our first journey into Power BI. Let's have a look at what Power BI does and how it actually works so that we can learn to become Power BI developers, be that I'm going to be a full-time hardcore Power BI developer, be it, I want to be a data analyst, but I need to learn a little bit about Power BI to make my job work better, or even quite like using Power BI, wouldn't mind being able to do a little bit more. Any of those, this course is really going to help you. We're going to go through at a low pace, keep things as simple as we can. Don't forget, add comments down below, send us emails, inquiries if you're not sure. Tell us if there's anything that you're not quite, I didn't quite understand that bit. If you don't tell us, we might not answer it the way you need it, and that'll hold you and your development back. But I can also almost guarantee if it's something you're thinking, somebody else will also be thinking it. So get in there, ask the question. Geordie Intelligence is, of course, a YouTube channel. As such, we're completely dependent on you, our viewers, liking, subscribing, and ideally interacting more with the posts. The more you do, the more you help the YouTube algorithm, and the more you help yourself, especially with course content like this that we're producing at the moment. So buckle in and let's get started. I want to start here, okay? Because I think this is something that you need to see about Power BI to really kind of hopefully get the things to kind of just, I get it now. I understand what I'm doing. What's the challenge that we've got, right? So the whole purpose of Power BI comes down to really it's pages like this and what they show an organization about what's going on. And you might well have seen images like this where, we've got this dashboard. It's brilliant. Look, I can see everything that's going on. And that's only part of the picture with Power BI. The reality and really where the power comes from is that it's interactive. So in this case, if I was to click on a particular area here, you'd see everything on the page updates to reflect what I've selected. If in turn, I just hover over it, you see we've got a tooltip that flies out. So it opens up something, tells me more information about my report. If we go somewhere else, it tells me something different. Okay? It gives me information about something else. This is one of those things. This is called cross-filtering, okay, or cross-highlighting, depending on how you've done it. This is set up to be cross-filtered. Cross-highlight would show you the raw, and then just with the variances and everything grayed out. We won't really cover it at the moment. The difference isn't there. You don't need to worry. The important thing is this. Everything is interactive and can do this because of the data model. Okay? Within Power BI, the data model is called the semantic model. Okay? One of the terms that you'll hear mentioned an awful lot in the context of Power BI and modeling is fact and dimensions. So you might hear fact tables, dimensions, star schema. You may even hear things referred to as the Kimball schema. What those mean is what we're going to talk about today. Okay? So we'll go through, we'll make sense of it, and then because of what we've done, we'll start to be able to do things a bit similar to this visual, but they'll be simpler. Here we are in Power BI Desktop. One of the things I want to do, and I think it's really important for you to see, is I'm going to sign out of my account. So I'm going to click sign out, sign myself out of Power BI Desktop. I'm now not logged in, okay? I'm not using any Microsoft account. I think it's really important for you to recognize that you don't need a license to use Power BI Desktop, okay? If you want to learn how to do Power BI and your company will say, we're not paying for you to have a license, download Power BI Desktop. You can use it on your home PC with obviously not with company data. You can use it with whatever you want, download some data, use it to learn. This example, as I say, will go through with me signed out, so that I can't use anything that would be Microsoft related or proof that this is entirely unlicensed and free for you to use. So the first thing we're going to do, okay, is we need to get some data, right? Modeling starts with get data. Power BI Desktop has a get data view here where we can go to get data. But before we do all that, let's just fix a couple of things that will come back and cause us problems in the future. So simple enough to do. Let's have a look at a couple of settings that Power BI has in a particular way that just cause problems. So we'll change them now, and then we can move forward. Firstly, we're going to click File, and then we're going to go down to Options and Settings, and Options. Under Options, you'll find we need to go to two places. The first one is at the top, under Data Load. We need to untick Auto Date Time for new files. Okay. For some reason, Microsoft still turn it on, still on by default. I would really rather they didn't. It's been a bugbear of mine the whole time I've worked with Power BI. So don't worry. If you forget to do this, easy done. I've often done it, especially when I've got a new laptop or anything like that coming through, forget to turn it on. And the last thing we need to do is under current file, just do exactly the same thing. We're going to click data load. We're going to tick to auto date time, turn that off, and we're going to click OK. Simple enough to do, wasn't it? Wasn't too complicated so far. So what we're going to look at is something, it's a data set that was originally produced for Tableau report pack. It's synthetic data, so it's made up. So there's a lot of challenges that it just doesn't have, but it's nice for us to use just to learn the principles of modeling. So what we can do is we can click to download it. I've put it up on the GitHub site that we've produced for content related to all the work that we do as a YouTube channel. I'll put a link to it down below, but I'll also put a link to the original source that we've got. Okay? The original source had it as an XLS file or an old-fashioned Excel file, which they do work with Power BI, but there's caveats with those. So I've made it, I've converted it into a CSV file, which is simpler, still works, and it's just an easier way for us to go through. So the link to GitHub is to our CSV file, but there's a second link, which is to the original source, so I will credit the person who came up with it. Not me, it's nothing to do with us, we did not create this. Now we've got that clear, let's begin. So the first thing we need to do is go to Get Data. Under Get Data, we're going to choose text or CSV. Right? In this case, it's a single file, so we'll just go and we'll pick the file type that we need. So I'm going to pick text, CSV. I'm going to browse to the location, which is here. I'm going to pick the file. So this will be wherever you've downloaded it to, probably your downloads folder. I'll choose to open it. It's going to say it's connecting to the file and then produce something that's going to show me a sample of the file. Okay. At this point, what we need to do is we need to click Transform Data. Again, this is a bugbear of mine I've had for many, many years, is, oh, load looks like I should click it. Load. If it's really simple, you can get away with load, but because we want to learn, we're going to click Transform Data. Okay, so we're going to click Transform. We click to transform the data, and that brings us into the Power BI query editor. Now, this is a really important part of Power BI Desktop and Power BI as a whole. So at the top, and I'll just zoom in a bit, at the top, we've got an overview of where we are, and we've got the menus similar to what you'll see in the Office suite now. We've got our home, we've got transform, add columns, view, and tools. Simple, nothing too much. In terms of what you'll use, most of what you need is going to be between home and add columns. Okay? That's your practical use case that you'll be doing. You've got home, which gives us a lot of options that we can do. We've got transform, which involves transforming something. And we've got add columns, which involves adding a column. So typically transform will be transform that column. Add columns, let's produce a new column, as well as home. What we can see we have here, as we look across, is we've got some things. We've got a row ID, so that's like a unique identifier for the row, like an index that would be considered. We've got an order ID. Again, there's something in there. We can see it's not unique to each row. We can see that, like, for example, here, this one has multiple row IDs within this order. So an order can exist, and then lots of rows further down to it. So like an invoice, if you think of an invoice, at the top you have the header, and then below it you'll have the list of items that are within it. So we've kind of got a header and all the items all put together as one big table. That's how to think of this. We've got some dates. So we've got an order date, so when was the order made, and we've got the ship date, so when was the order shipped to the person. And the two aren't necessarily the same. Got the mode of shipping, so was it sent first class, standard class, second class? Is there another one? We can click the arrow and see what other options there are in here. So we've got first class, same day, second class, standard class. And we see, because there's so much, and our sample that we're sampling to build this isn't complete, it's telling us the list might not be complete. We've got customer IDs, so we can see if customers potentially are ordering different things, the same things. Got their ID, their name, what kind of a customer they are, their segment, as it were, the country, city, and state information for them, so all their address information, really. Let me zoom out of here so we can scroll across a bit further. Okay. And then let's zoom back in. Let me move the mouse back up. There we go, zoom in. Okay. We've got product information, so the actual product ID, which then relates to a category, a subcategory, and a product name. Got a sale amount, a quantity, a discount, and then lastly, we've also got profit. So if we scroll across, so we can see we've got the sales amount, how many items are in the sale, if there's a discount applied, and then what our profit was on that sale. Okay, so it's brilliant. We can kind of work out everything that's going on. In theory, we could even work out things like what's the actual unit price and see if the unit prices are changing or something like that. I'd probably avoid it given that there's postage involved here. So potentially, again, this is where the synthetic nature of this data set would come back and cause us problems. But what we have is some really clear pieces of information here. We've got products, we've got customers, and we've got orders, really, haven't we? That orders have happened. Okay. So we mentioned facts and dimensions. Now, facts and dimensions are what this is going to be about, because when you build your models, what you're looking for is a way of aggregating a column. So our aggregation would be looking at, say, the sales column. So I would say, give me the total sales for, say, Brentford CR 4,500, 4,500 series semi-rectangular tables. Okay? And we could go away and calculate that by looking at the total of the sales column for that. We could look at the total profit, look at things like average discount. There's things we can do. We could look at how many were sold, count of quantity, or the sum of quantity, sorry. All of these will work for us. What we need to understand, though, is how can we put that into a model that's going to be efficient and scalable, so that it means For all we've just got a spreadsheet now, if my company ran for 20 to 30 years, it might be a bit too big for a spreadsheet, but I'd still want to be able to quickly and easily see what had happened and to go through and look at my data. So how would I do all this? And this is really what data modeling is about. So we've got our sample data store here. What the data is all through, got everything in. Okay. One of the things I'm going to do, and it's not so much one of those things that's best practice. It's one of those things that I use a lot, and I know a lot of other developers do as well. And that is, we've got our baseline, which is this raw source data. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click here and I'm going to untick the enable load. Okay, so if we zoom in, so you've got enable load, I'm just going to tick that. And what that means is it's not going to bring this table into our report pack. And then what we can do is we can right click here and we can come down to reference it. So we choose to reference. So I'm going to double click on it now and just rename it. We'll do this a couple of times. We're going to call this product. We'll do it one more time. So back on the top, Sales Superstore, the one that is in italic because it's not being loaded through. I'm going to reference that. And this is going to be customers. So we've got products, customers. And then lastly, what we will do is we will reference it one more time. And this is going to be orders. Okay. So we've got three tables that are all effectively the same as the first one. So for products, we've got products selected here. What I'm going to do is, I will zoom out. It's half the problem. I can't see what's going on. Is I'm going to select the columns for products. So we've got the product ID through to product name. We've got just those 4 columns. What I'm going to do next, zoom in again, is I'm going to right click and choose to remove other columns. Okay, so we've removed everything that wasn't those 4 columns, basically what we've said. And we can see it says there, table, select columns, just these ones. Okay. I've got one more thing to do. All right. Now, I know, because I've done this before, that there's an issue with this data set. Right? And this is one of those things that's a real world thing that you might find happens. So if, for example, we turned around and we did what we'd normally do, what we would do with customers, but I'll show you on here. Okay. So if we went and selected everything, so hold down the shift key and select all 4 columns. Yeah, or you can do like that, select all 4. I'm holding down the control key. If I then said remove duplicates, so right click, remove duplicates, the assumption would be, well, I've now got a list of unique things, haven't I? It's unique. Product IDs should be unique. This is giving me that list of unique IDs that I need. If we pick here, right, and we'll do this and then we'll undo it. I just want you to see what's happening here and why we're going to do something in a particular way with this table. We've got here. So if I say group by, we're going to choose to group by product ID and just a count of rows. Okay, so what we're saying is group by how many rows are there in there? And of course, they should all be 1, shouldn't they? But we can see there are several that are 2, okay? Or rather, we can put in here where they are not 1. Okay, so there's only 2, or up to 2. We could see that would be more than 2. So there are things or products that presumably, for whatever reason, we can highlight there. I'm just going to copy that so we can see what I'm talking about. they've ended up being duplicated. Okay, so I'm going to click on the cross here, and that's one of the things you can do. And we'll do the same with this remove duplicates. But first off, let's just check and see what's happening with that. So if we go to text filters, where product ID equals, and we'll paste in the product ID, we can see here that the same product ID has gone from being Howard Miller, 3 foot 3¼ inch wall clock, to some solid wood frames. So I think somebody's definitely made a mistake, it'd be what I would say. But again, data, synthetic data, these are the kind of things that you see. So real world, we'd need to work out that what's happened, why has that product changed? And it might be a case of the description has changed in terms of that's what's happening with this product name. It might be something else that you need to work through. And that's then where you'll need to sit down with your colleagues and work out what should we do in this situation. It isn't really possible to come up with a one-size-fits-all answer to the question. That's why I'm being a bit vague. But for us, for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over to here. Let's zoom back in. Where it says filtered rows, where we just filtered to that, we're going to click on the cross to remove it. And we're going to click on the cross to remove duplicates like we did before. Okay, and then lastly, we'll just come back out and we've got our table back as it was. So what we will do now is we will just highlight product ID, right click on that and remove duplicates from it. And now, if we do the group by the same way as we did before, you can see this time, load more, everything's just one. So we've got rid of the challenge that we had before. Everything is now unique. But if we went back and looked and found that column, so if we go where this equals, paste that in again, this is the one we've ended up with. It'll just be the first one. So for the other 10, 15 or so that we had duplicates with, potentially we've lost something in that data. We would need to go through and do an in-depth analysis, look at what the prevalence was of that order, look at how those orders were structured, piece it together. You can do it if you want, okay, but for the sake of this being quick, we won't. Okay, we'll click on the cross again to remove that step. So we've got, this is here. Okay. For our customers, we're going to do the same. Okay, so we can come through. We know it's customer ID all the way through to region. So I'm going to hold down shift between there and there. That's selected that group. I'm going to right click, and again, we're going to remove other columns. So we end up just with these 7 columns that we need for customer. And then the last step to do, I'm pretty sure we can get away with doing it with all of them this time. If not, it'll tell us at a later date. And we all know what to do now if it doesn't work. So I've selected everything, and I'm going to just go right click and remove duplicates. So it's saying where we've got unique rows. Okay. Then we've got our orders table. And what we really want for our orders table, okay, is everything else. But one thing that we need to get rid of, firstly, okay, is this row ID column. Okay. Indexes and ID columns in fact tables are the enemy as far as this goes. I don't want to get into it too much today, but it's something to be aware of. This we need to get rid of. So I'm going to right click and remove this column. We've now got everything else that relates to this order. So what we can do is we're going to remove some columns that we don't need. What we don't need are things like the customer information other than the ID column. Okay, so let's tell you what, let's just pick everything, Control A, pick all the columns. I'm just going to go through, I'm going to remove customer name, segment, country, city, state, postal code, region, and then we'll do the same with product category. Yeah, okay, so we've now just got the columns left that I think we need. I'm going to pick a column, just right click on it and remove other columns. And you can see that's removed an awful lot of columns. And what we're left with is largely number columns. Okay, and this is ideal for a fact table. Okay, numbers. Right. So we've got here the exception being ship mode, but of course we could do something about ship mode, and we might talk about that in a bonus at some point. But we've got some things that we can join to other things, right? I've kept order ID because I think for this, order ID might be important. Okay, it'd be nice to understand what went together, which is why order ID is useful. What we have now, if we look at customer, okay, we've got this customer ID here. This is a unique list of IDs, isn't it? So there's going to be a one to one. It's like a unique list. Okay, there's not going to be duplicate values in here. If we look at orders and customer ID and orders, even here we can see where all these are duplicates. It's the same one duplicate many times. So we've got the concept already coming, and there's a name for these two things. In the column or in the table that the column is the source of, okay, the unique side, this is the primary key. This is the key to the relationship. Okay? It's the critical piece of information, the key, and it's referred to as the primary key. When we come through into a fact table and we have the same information, okay, this is a record of the primary key from another table. So it's a way of saying this table's primary key, in terms of that table over there, is primary key. So it's not a local primary key or a local key, it's a foreign key. It's referred to as a foreign key. So best practice for fact tables, and these tables that tend to be narrower and just full of numbers, fact tables, because that's where things happened, is to not have any primary keys, but multiple foreign keys. So we can see in this row, order ID is technically is a foreign key, because we could take order ID, put that in a separate table with the order date and the ship date. Potentially those are something different. In fact, should we do it that way? Let's not. Okay, but we could. Okay, you could make that argument. That's a separate table, and then we would just have order ID, customer ID, product ID as the tables in there. Tell you what, I'm going to do it because it's otherwise I'm going to annoy myself because I'm already getting annoyed by it. So let's do that. So we're going to go back to here. So we're saying remove other columns. I'm going to pick here and I'm going to remove customer ID, product ID. Oh, it'd be different, wouldn't it? Okay. So we'll do it slightly differently. So we've removed those columns. Okay, we've left that here. Sorry, I was just thinking through it and I was thinking, oh, we should do this way. And we're going to come back and we're going to right click here again and we're going to pick to reference it again. And this time, this is going to be our sales. Okay, so this is the actual sales that have taken place. And what we're going to do is we're going to remove row ID again. Okay, so we'll remove that. We're going to keep order ID. We're going to keep customer ID. We're going to keep product ID. And then we're going to keep sales, quantity, discount, profit. Okay, I'm going to right click that and we're going to remove other columns. Okay, so we've just got 3 foreign keys, remember? And then the facts that relate to that occurrence where everything came together. That's the fact, isn't it? The fact of the sale is that this product was brought by this customer. They bought 2 of them for this amount of money and we profited that amount and it was part of this order. Okay, so that's kind of the fact of the matter, isn't it? So we've got orders here. Now I'm going to do something just because I want to show you. It's not necessarily a sensible thing to do because looking at here where we've got these, the discounts vary. But what we could do is and this is again, for the sake of argument only, I'm showing you this, would be we could group by, we could add to the groupings. So we could bring through the ship date, we could bring through the order date, so that we're getting these ones coming together. Actually, we need one more, don't we? We need the ship mode. And then we could add the aggregations for these. So we could total the sales, we could total the quantity, and we could total the profit, which makes make sense actually. So let's do that. So let's go to sum, 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 order sales amount, order quant, and order profit. Okay, so it's the sum, in this case saying order A, but we change it to sales, sum of quantity, and sum, lastly, of profit. Okay, and this will produce quickly and easily this. Right? We wouldn't want to put in the ID. Now, there's an argument to be said for doing this, there's an argument to be said for not doing this. And this is a case of use case specific. Depending on how big your fact tables are and how big everything is, this might be useful. Depending on everything else, this might be terrible. Okay, I've shown you it so you can see, but what we've now got anyway is a list of unique IDs for our orders. And we know they're unique because if we come back to here, we do our group by again, just like we did before, group order ID, what we should see, if I've done this right, is these are all just one. Okay, so that's perfect. We'll move that grouped rows one. So we've built a table that's just going to give us a summary of everything that goes on with our orders. Now this could be ideal for an aggregation table structure if you want to do it. Okay, if we had a lot of questions coming through to us, what were these orders? What was the orders? We've got an aggregation table layout, okay, as opposed to the number of items that there are. So we could change this. We come back in here and say, actually, let's add an aggregation rows. Okay, it's going to be a count of rows. So we can see some of these are significant. We've got one there with 12, for example. So you could be looking at actually what's going on. There's an analysis that could be done around here. And just by pre-staging it, that can help. We don't need it. We've got our sales, we've got our products, we've got our customers. The last thing that we do need is a calendar table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our GitHub, copy our calendar table and paste it in. So here I am in our GitHub page. What you can see is here is I have my Power Query calendar source. I'm just going to click on that and that will open up this. All I really need to do is copy this. So I'm going to go copy from all the way from left all the way down to the bottom of change type. I'm going to right click, copy, go back to Power BI desktop. On the right hand side, I'm going to right click and click a new blank query. Zoom in on that just so you can see. New blank query. That will open a box or a blank sheet, as it were. Got that. And then we need to right click on that and go to the advanced editor. And you can see we've got content there. I'm going to paste it in. I'm going to scroll up just because there's a couple of things I need to check. Okay. So we've got here that we're going to use end year offset. All right. Is what this is. But the important thing we've got here, and what we're going to use is we just need to double check to make sure that the start date is going to be fine. And I think from memory, this is from 2013. So this is starting in the year 2000. Brilliant. Perfect. This will work. I'm just going to click done, bottom, and I'm going to zoom out. And then one more thing just to do, I'm going to just rename this calendar. Okay, just so we've now got a calendar table. And this is just nice, simple calendar we bring in, and we've got everything. So we've now got dates that we can look at, use and reference. We've got the sales date, things take place in, got everything. So now we need to close and apply this because all we've actually done in Power BI sense of terminology is we've built scripts. We've built what are termed as ETL scripts: extract, transform, and load. So we've now got something that's going to take data from a source, extract it, it's going to transform it, and then load it into a model. But at the moment, all we've really shown is, well, this is what I need you to do. So until we come up to here and we click close and apply, so close and apply, we haven't done anything to bring it through into Power BI desktop, and it's all going to sit there. So now it's loading it through, and we can see all the tables coming in. It's brought my tables through. Oh, it hasn't done anything. How do I know it's brought them through? On the right-hand side, you've got the list of tables here. First thing to do is let's click on calendar. I'm going to right-click on calendar as well. And mark this as date table, so I have to hit the 3 dots with left click. Okay, do you want to mark this as date table? Yes, I do. Select your date column, it's dates, validates it, and save. Really important that Power BI knows you've got a date column. Okay, it just helps make everything much easier. We're going to go to our model view. On the left-hand side is the third one down. And we need to then just make sure that all the relationships have come through correctly. So sales is here. We've got orders, which remember is what we had. We've got customers. Now customer and customer ID hasn't worked. So we're going to bring that through, drag from one to the other. We see it says, are you sure you want this relationship to be built? Okay. So it's saying it's going to be bi-directional. So there's an issue with this somewhere. And what that means is that there is not a unique field value across on one side or the other. So I'm going to say this is going to be a many to one, because we're going from sales, the many side, to one, customer side. So we've got something. So KB 16240. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to come out of here, and we can go to the data view, the second one down. It's the customers, and we can see, what is it, KB240. So we're seeing KB 240, wasn't it? 240. All right. Yeah. So it seems to be so okay. So it's because this customer has moved around, and we can see there's lots of different addresses for this customer, which potentially that's something that would be useful to know. So if do customers have multiple issue areas? This is a corporate customer, so potentially they're different locations that the business operates out of, different things. So we've got already things coming in to the data, and this is something that you see happens an awful lot when you do real world data analysis. So what I'm going to do now is on the home tab, we've got transform data. I'm going to click on that and choose to transform this data. Now, there are lots of options that we could do to try and figure out the best way for this. For the sake of it, just to keep it moving quickly, what I'll do is I'm going to do exactly the same as I did before with our products. I'm going to choose to remove duplicates there, and I'm just on customer ID, right click, and let's remove duplicates. So we're just removing duplicates on customer ID. This will now refresh, and this will come back, and we should just have one row for it. So we can see we've definitely lost something in our analysis with that. But again, it's important to think through at your top level what's going on, and then you work through into the detail. Okay. The realities are you will very rarely, in a one-step process, fix all the challenges that you face. So we're going to drag customer to this, customer to customer, one to many, which is what we wanted. And then what we've got to do now, I'm going to move these down here. We'll swap those over just because it makes it easier. We've got dates for the calendar, and I'm going to put that to the order date. That's the first side, one to many, and then I'm going to do a passive relationship, one more down. That's going to go into ship date. So suddenly we're actually getting useful from that. Okay. So we've built a simple 5-table model very quickly and very easily. From those 5 tables, what can we do? What was the point in doing that? So what we can now do is if we went, say, to sales, and I clicked on, say, sales, okay, so my sum of sales is 2 million. Brilliant. Just what I want to know. I'm going to format that. Here we go. Format that as currency. It's a US business. I'm going to format it as dollars. Okay, brilliant. $2.3 million sales. Awesome. But now what we can do is we can start to actually piece this together. So we could turn around and say, well, let's put it on a year. Oh, so we can see that by year. Okay. And we could also then say, well, actually, let's put a legend for that by category. So we can see each year what's happened. We could choose to then say, well, let's look at things by state. Sales state, and then we could again bring in year. Okay, so we've suddenly got state by year. Okay. And again, these are interactive. So if we pick 2016, we can see it gives us some information about that as well. We can do the same on 2016, and you'll see it shows it 2016. We could look at these things differently. So we've got here state, and instead of it being year, why don't we put on, we could put on the orders, the ship mode. Okay, so we could suddenly start to look and see, well, what happened in 2016, 2014, 2015. So we've got 2014, 2015, yeah. Okay, so we've got this view that we've actually quickly and easily pulled together into something. So what you can do very quickly within Power BI and within the Power Query environment is you can build models. And those models are built by structuring scripts in Power Query, or Power Query scripts in the language is M, if you really want to know, to build up tables that are going to contain or be structured around the primary key and the ability to then have a foreign key in a different table. That allows us to build models. And our one was fairly simple, but you can imagine they can get very complicated. You can have 100+ tables in a model, and they will all effectively link from a primary table to from a primary key to a foreign key. And then from there, you start to piece together the model. There's no real complexity to it beyond just primary key to foreign key. And thinking about, well, how would we disseminate that? Is this primary key we've got the right key, like we saw with the customer ID, like we saw with the product ID, where potentially something that we thought was unique just isn't unique? So we'd probably need to work out a way of piecing together the customer to then have an address ID as well. And it's that address ID that would tie that postcode or the postal code, state information together with the customer ID, and then validate that those two are together. And then we'd again potentially have to accept the granularity that postal area, in US terms, like the zip code, but is that too big for us that we could have customers who have multiple addresses within that zip code? But then is there enough information in the rest of the address to validate or confirm or deny that in any way, shape or form? So we can see we're starting to hit the challenges that you'll come up with as you progress through your Power BI developer journey. What we're going to do next week is we're going to start writing some DAX measures. So right now we've dragged and dropped some things in. we can write DAX expressions just to get that little bit more information out and that subtlety that we also can see within the Power BI environment, just to take things to the next step. If you like what you've seen, don't forget, like and subscribe. If you think you'd like to work with us, get in touch. Our consultancy organisation is here to help. They're best reached via our email, consulting@geordieconsulting.co.uk. For now though, stay safe, take care, ta-da.